Hi, welcome to my 2023 Mathematics Digital presentation. Today I'll be teaching you about linear graphs, gradients, rules, and x and y intercepts. We're going to start with linear graphs and we're going to go through some definitions and examples. What is a linear graph? Linear refers to a straight line. Straight line graphs or linear graphs are used to show the relationship between two quantities. A line that has points that aren't in a straight line is considered nonlinear. The graph on the right is linear. We know this because there's no curves and it's just a straight line going through the middle. Which one of the examples below, A, B, C, or D, are linear? We know that D is linear as there's a straight line going through the graph with no curves. How to identify nonlinear graphs. Why is the graph on the right nonlinear? This is nonlinear as the lines do not form a straight line, but they form a curved line. Gradient of lines. Gradient of a line. A straight line's steepness can be determined by looking at its gradient. A line's gradient does not have to be a whole integer and might be positive or negative. A line's gradient can either be in an uphill positive value, downhill negative value, vertical undefined value, or horizontal zero value direction. These are the types of slopes that can be on a graph. We have a zero value or an undefined value, negative value, or positive value. Now we have a question to solve. So the question asks us to connect the points -4 to -4, -2 to -2, 0 to 0, 2 to 2, 4 to 4 on the graph provided. Then answer the following questions. Is it linear, and what is the gradient? When reading points, we always start with the x value, which is provided first. So starting on the x values line, we're going to go down to -4, which is on the y axis. This would now be our point. For -2 to 2, we're going to start by taking the x value, which is -2, and going down to -2 on the y-axis. This would now be our point. I'm now going to do the rest the same way, starting with the x value and then the y value. Now we have to connect them. Now that the points are connected, we can answer question A. Is it linear? We know that this question is linear as it forms a straight line. Question B asks us what is the gradient. We know that this is a positive gradient as it is sloping to the right. Rule of linear relationships. What is a rule? To find the rule of a linear relationship, you must list the x and y values on a table, also known as the table of values. In this table, y is equal to x minus 1. We know this as the y value is decreasing by 1 in the x-axis. Question 3. Find the rule on the following graph. We're going to start by looking at the x-axis. We know that this increases by double the amount in the y-axis. Y is decreasing by half of x, meaning that the answer is y equals x over 2, meaning x divided by 2. To check if our answer is right, we can put the x-axis and the y-axis on the graph provided. If we were to do that, the points would be linear, meaning our answer is correct. You'd put the x value on the x-axis and the y on the right, and you do the same for each of the points. X and y intercepts. X and y intercepts. The x-intercept is where a line crosses the x-axis, and the y-intercept is the point where the line crosses the y-axis. As you can see on the graph provided, the y-intercept is where the line crosses over on the y-axis, and the x-intercept is where the line crosses over on the x-axis. Question 4. State the point of the x and y-intercepts. By looking at the graph, we can see that the x-intercept is 3, 0, and the y-intercept is 0, 3. We know this because the line crosses over on the y-axis at the 3, and crosses over at the x-axis also on the 3. Therefore, the y-axis would be 0, 3, and the x-axis would be 3, 0. The reason that we write 0 before the 3 for the y-axis is because we have to read the x-axis before the y-axis. Telling stories through graphs. This question asks us to tell a story to describe the journey on the graph below. So we're going to tell a story about this graph. And A point would be her distance from home. So this is how far she is from home, and this is home. And the bottom line tells us how many hours it took her to get from point A to B or B to C, etc. Our story could be that a girl named Jenna left her house to go see her friends, and this was her journey. So to get from point A to B, she would have left her house and drove for an hour. Then to get from B to C, she would have stopped at a cafe for a drink. To get from C to D, she would have gone to a petrol station that was closer to her home, because it was cheaper. From point D to E, she would have made it to her friend's house, and from E to F, this is the time she spent at her friend's house, which would be 4.5 hours. To get from point F to G, this would be the time that it took for her to leave her friend's house and get back to her house, which took 2.5 hours. Now we're going to write this down. Thank you for listening to my maths digital presentation.